y'all? This is indeed the E-Man, chilling like a villain, singing like Bob Dylan. Keep it on low with some double stuff. Oreos. And man, I love movies. Movies are my jam. Movies are everything to me. And today I'm going to be talking about the number one movie in America as of today, which is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
That's because people got nothing else to see right now.
I know, yeah.
There's no other movies out there. None of them.
Flash is done. Elemental, that's just a, that's just, they're talking about races. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Right.
What is that? What's that movie with Jennifer Lawrence down now? If you're under 17, you don't want to see it because it's got boobies. Only movie left to see is Indiana Jones, yeah.
Indiana Jones.
Does it have her boobies?
Huh?
Does it have Jennifer Lawrence's boobies?
She's yes. Yes. She's using them. You know, in a fight scene, people use their fists. Mm-hmm. She uses her boobies.
Oh, wow. Man, now I gotta see that.
Yeah.
Weaponize her boobies.
I'm pretty sure it's her best performance yet.
Oh,
no.
And let me get the introductions to my roundtable guests right here. First up, I want to introduce a man who was a part of episode 11 of the podcast. He's an actor, musician. He's a composer. He also has this beautiful audio horror drama called Dead Meat Pete, which is on all podcast platforms. Please welcome my friend, Mr. Chris Gervais in the house. What's up, Chris?
Woo, thank you.
Yes.
That is all of the things I am.
Yes, all the...
So for the record, this is my standard Zoom background. I didn't do this for this episode.
I'm
not kidding.
Nice.
This really is
it's excellent.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, next up, I have a friend of mine who's a gamer. He's a voice actor. He's a Twitch streamer, and he's a future dad.
Hey.
And let me tell you, man, he was on part of episode number 23 of my podcast. I want to welcome Mr. Mick Davis in the house. What's up, Mick? Mick. What's up?
Should I do this like Harrison Ford? Yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here, kid.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a fun adventure and a wild ride.
That's pretty good.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So, as a future dad, do you just have a jetpack and carry your baby around in a little?
Well, that's the idea. So he got one of those things that goes on the chest, so that way the jetpack is free and I can fly. I'm surprised you didn't use my other name, E-Man.
It's coming.
Okay, I figured.
Right. So there's no confusion. And then finally, I want to welcome this actor and producer. He's an American host, and he was a part of your Saturday mornings as the host of Nick Arcade. A few weeks back, I had the honor of interviewing him on episode number 36, and I just want to welcome back the man in the zone, Mr. Phil Moore. What's up, Phil Moore? How you doing?
Welcome, man. I'm doing great. Welcome back. Hey, congratulations on the new dad. That was new.
Thank you.
And it's my first time meeting Chris and Mick. It's great. And I think I'm going to take a cue from Mick right now and do my Harrison Ford about myself. Yeah, Phil Moore hosted that show back in the 90s. This man belongs in a museum. There we go.
Nice. Well, now I gotta throw mine in. My voice. So I went keeping it 80s. I went to see The Cure on Wednesday.
Nice.
And I lost my voice. Yeah, and I'm not quite recovered yet. So, but so here's my Harrison Ford. Never tell me the odds.
Nice.
So vibe that I was feeling was kind of like the Marty McFly. You're kind of coming off with right now.
Oh, geez, Doc, this is heavy.
Oh, geez, Doc.
This is heavy, Doc.
Why is everything so much heavier in the future? Is there something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull? Marty!
You made a time machine?
Got the hot for me?
Out of the DeLorean?
Out of a DeLorean?
Yes!
Oh, my God.
It's on your underwear.
Geez,
All right,
smoke,
man.
dude.
Hey, man, you got to do... Come on, give us your Harrison now.
Oh gosh. Okay, I'll try my best. With my high
voice. Pick any Harrison you want. You can come up. You can come up with any Patriot games. I don't care. Give me some Harrison.
Okay. What does he say? Oh, I know.
Nice. See, I thought you were gonna go with a little "get off my plane." To
the point, simple, perfect. Yeah,
no,
perfect,
dude. Oh my gosh! And when you guys are talking about Michael J. Fox and Back to the Future, I just want to give a shout out to Michael J. Fox, man, because I just watched that documentary called Still, and it
So
is
good.
fantastic, man.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, dude is
okay,
a legend.
look. Before we went on, I was about to tell everybody this, but I said let's wait till we start doing the podcast. Look, if everybody look, I don't know where you are. If you're on the East Coast and you can get to Florida, if you're in the West Coast, you can get to Anaheim, California. Yesterday, I went to see at the Disney's California Adventure, Rogers the musical.
Oh,
Yes. So what they did was, it was a thing in Hawkeye. You know, you see the billboards and all of the MCU movies now, but they actually put together like a 45-minute show. Like they decided, instead of it being just samples, little excerpts for a TV show, as if it's a fake musical, they went ahead, got like some classic Broadway writers writing songs, incredibly talented singers and actors and actresses, and they did it, man.
That's incredible.
That's so cool.
And so stuck in my head right now is, I can do this all day.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's amazing.
It's
of course.
cool, y'all.
Had to do it.
Cool. Yeah.
That is cool. So just to talk about this movie, Ben, I've talked about, you know, my love for Indiana Jones many times over in this podcast, you know, and how, like, you know, the movie Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, literally it changed my life, you know, for when it comes to movie going and movie loving. And so my first question for you guys is, like, what is your favorite Indiana Jones film and why? I want to start off with Chris. What's up?
Well, you know, it's funny. I think it's just our closeness in age that the first one I saw was Temple. So I think I have the most intense nostalgia for that one. Although I was also, by the time that Last Crusade came out, I was in line at a theater. And so it's tough. I'm not answering the question, am I? I think it's Last Crusade. Yeah.
Okay. And why?
Like I said, I think it was like I was so obsessed with Indiana Jones, and that was the first one that I got to like see the trailers for and go see and just like talk to my friends about it and go back and see it multiple times. I remember sitting in church and bored looking at my dad's like super Bible and finding that facade, whatever temple it is, in the back. And so I would just, like, when I was bored in church, I would thumb to that and just stare at it.
Nice.
Think about Indiana Jones.
Nice. I've recently rewatched The Last Crusade because as a kid I didn't like it, but like now I have such an appreciation for it, especially like, you know, Sean Connery being in there and everything. Mick, what about you?
It's tough because when I was young, Raiders is one of my all-time favorite movies ever. I think it's almost a perfect movie. Despite the one major flaw of that movie is that Indiana Jones is not needed to change anything that happens, because if the Nazis steal the Ark, they're going to take it to that island. They're going to open it. It's going to fry them all. And Indiana Jones is not needed at all to make that happen. But that aside, I still love it. Although the older I get, the more I really, really love Last Crusade. And it's like slowly creeping up there. I think it's just because I'm getting older is all it is. But Sean Connery's just so great as his dad. And, you know, you've got the thing that really gets me in it, like watching it again, because I watched all the movies preparing for the new one.
Right.
And the thing that gets me is, you know, he's like, you know, I could get it, Dad. I could get it. You know, he's reaching for the grail, and his dad, you know, the entire movie, he's like, Junior, you know, but in the end, he just like very calmly, Indiana, and it, bam, snaps him out of it and saves him. So Last Crusade's creeping up there, but it's Raiders just because it's such an incredible film. It's the ultimate adventure movie. Once it gets going, it doesn't stop. And it's such a fun ride. So yeah, I love it.
Let me real quick, because all I did was say the reason I'm nostalgic for it. I'm going to piggyback on his answer in that I think the reason at the end of the day that Last Crusade is my favorite is it has the most character. It has the most emotion. It's got like the father-son dynamics, one of the most powerful things you can put in a story. I think
so much heart.
It just weighs. That movie weighs a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, since you talk about you mentioned Sean Connery, I do have a Sean Connery impression. Hold on. That was naughty. Is that okay?
Right. Not bad. Quite good. Not bad at all.
Phil, what's your favorite Indiana Jones film?
Excuse me. My favorite is the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And the reason is because being the old guy in the room, I actually saw it in the theater. I saw it in college. Now, the reason why it's my favorite is because in my entire movie going history up to that point, I had never been just pimp slapped in the face by a film before. Don't get me wrong. I saw in the theater the original Star Wars trilogy. I saw in the theater the original Superman. But when I was in college, I was actually I meant to have this prepared for this, but there was another movie that I was going to see. When the movie came out, a lot of my friends had gone home for, I don't know if the spring break, summer. When did the original Raiders come out? It was some sort of like time for college kids to go back home. But I didn't. I stayed for that semester. So I was bored, and I remember going to the movie theater to see something else. Because the advertisement for Raiders, like y'all are talking about, we saw the trailers and da-da-da-da. None of that. I saw zero of that. I saw a couple, maybe one commercial, but I was in school. I was like, I was studying. I was partying. So I wasn't watching TV. We had a TV in the dorm room. Did I cut it on? No. And so I didn't see any commercials or anything. So I went to the mall to see some other film. So if you look up the year, find out what movie
81.
came out. 81. All right.
Yep.
So take a look and find out what movie came out that same month, and what was like that was the movie that I want to see, because that was the one that was getting all the press. And when I got there, it was so big that it was sold out. Okay. So now I rode a bike to get to this movie theater because I didn't have a car. Like struggling college kid. So I was not going to get back on that bike and ride in the Florida sun. I went to college in Florida, ride in the Florida sun all the way back empty-handed. So I stopped and I went, looked at the time, and I said, what is this Raiders of the Lost Ark thing? You guys, I don't know, but like, people have seen it, said it was okay. So I wanted to a movie like this. And when I came out, I had a handprint on my face because Raiders pimp slapped me. And I was like, oh, take the money. And I'd never experienced that by a feature film in my entire life, like ever. It was, I mean, imagine going and thinking that you're going to like get just whatever, a handload of crap, something to waste 2 hours sitting in air conditioning, and you walk out and your mind has been blown beyond the capability of fully expressing mind blown. And so that's why it holds a special place for me, because there's some other ones, like I love Last Crusade. Temple of Doom, I think, is kind of weird for me because it wasn't my gateway movie, so I can look at it in order and kind of go, but like to be blown away, just like, I want to see it again. When everybody started coming back to school, I was like, I don't care what you got to do. I don't care what you said before. We got to go see this Raiders of the Lost Ark thing. I mean, we went in groups. I'd never experienced that before. Oh, and listen, one more. I got my Sean Connery, my only Sean Connery. Here we go.
Okay.
Money partner. That's it. There you go. That's it.
Nice. And your experience sounds a lot like mine, because like I never seen when I was 8 years old. I never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I went in to see Temple of Doom just because of the word of mouth. And I remember waiting in line in the movie theater for hours because I was living in New Jersey, and the line was wrapped around the theater twice. So that built up the anticipation of the movie. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And even when we got in the movie theater, the theater was completely full. So we had to look for the seats. So, as a kid, I was always aware, like, okay, this is a movie, they're directors, they're actors. None of this is real, but it's just here to entertain us. But let me tell you something. As growing up in my household, we never watched horror movies or anything like that. The moment when Mola Ram stuck his hand in that dude's chest, it got real and real. I was totally invested in that movie. I was like, I was scared for the characters. I was like, oh my God. Movie has everything. Movie has like a cameo of Dan Aykroyd, and it's really, really fast. You know what I'm saying? That movie to me was a literal roller coaster ride, because there's like a roller coaster scene. It was everything. You know what I'm saying? And then shout out to Jonathan Keyquan for winning an Oscar, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Incredible. Dude's been dormant for like 22 years and wins an Oscar. Awesome.
Mhm. Okay, boom.
That's
I got it, guys. The movie that I was going to go see was Stripes.
Oh,
Oh, Bill Murray.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Funny.
Stripes came out and it was June. So everybody had gone on for summer. And I decided to go the summer semester at school. So it was like just, it's like a skeleton group of people there. But Stripes was the movie I was going to go see, and it was sold out.
That's the
Nice.
fact, Jack. Yes.
Nice.
Mhm.
Now, I will say, and they even have like personal attachment to Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. I think if the question is like, what's the best one? I mean, I think the way that like Jaws is my actual favorite movie of all time, and Raiders really was, in context. He Jaws. A lot of the reason Jaws is what it is because he was young and hungry and he had to prove something and he had to earn his dream, and then Close Encounters, also one of my favorite movies, but he didn't get to ride that wave into 1941, and that movie tanked, and he went over budget, and then everybody hated it. And then like Raiders he was once again young and hungry because he had to prove I can hand a movie in on budget and I can still blow him away. And so I think it's that like, and he said a lot before that like his anxiety, the more he's worried that the better he does. And like he doesn't ever want to not be nervous. And like he had a little bit of hubris, when he made 1941, and I think it checked him.
Right. And by the way, something you mentioned too about like how it changed movies. It changed movies because it was one of the major reasons that we got a PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
Now in movies, you used to be able to go to a movie. Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Temple of Doom was the movie that stopped and people went, wait a minute now, come on. I guess they didn't deem R, but it definitely wasn't PG. And when you look at a lot of the stuff that happens in that, you're like, yeah, he reaches in a guy's chest, pulls out his beating heart, and that's a PG. That gets the same rating as Back to the Future.
I love Temple as well, and sort of like you said, it's got a special place in my heart as well because a lot of ways it reminds me of my favorite movie of all time, which is Beetlejuice, which a lot of people would say wouldn't want to call it a horror movie, but it's horror adjacent, and that's what I consider Temple of Doom as well, because it's not quite a horror movie, but there's so many horror elements that it's horror adjacent. It's got the same kind of veins running through it that like for example like Beetlejuice does, because there's comedy, there's kind of action bits, there's legitimate scary bits where you were concerned for the characters, for what's happening, and Temple of Doom, I know a lot of people say I don't like that movie, blah blah blah, I didn't know it was a prequel. I'm like, they tell you in the first 2 minutes that it is. So I really do enjoy Temple of Doom as well. So it's hard. The original 3, they're all like right there, and in some of it's like, what day is it? Yeah, that one's the one I like the most today. So
yeah. What were you about to say, Phil?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Well, I think that's very true, and Temple really digs in on the horror, but Spielberg, I mean, other than like his like sort of like espionage kind of movies and stuff, he's always using horror.
Oh yeah.
But any of his like high fantasy movies, there's a lot of horror. I mean, there's definitely horror in every Indiana Jones movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I know what I was going to say. Do you remember though the thing about the weird sort of like there was comedy, there was action, but that sort of darkness horror? I mean, I know you probably all heard like they were talking about how they were both in sort of like a weird time. You had Spielberg who kind of had to prove himself again, so there was a little anxiety and pressure with him, and Lucas was going through a divorce. And that's why he leaned heavily into all of the sort of the darkness, because he was like, he admitted, he's like, I was in a dark place because I was going through a divorce, and it seemed to like just spill out in his creativity. And Lucas was just, I mean, and Spielberg said he wasn't necessarily on board for all of the darkness, but he was like, well, okay, maybe it's time for him to make something a little bit different, a little bit edgier. And so they were in interesting places in their lives as professionals at that time. And the ending result was what you got with the Temple of Doom. And from that, again, changed seeing cinema because we got a PG-13 rating now.
Yep.
Yeah. And like soon after that too, it's like I think Gremlins was the next PG-13 movie, but directed by Joe Dante, and another game-changing movie. Because I fell in love with Phoebe Cates in that movie, and I will tell to this day, Phoebe Cates, oh my gosh, she was amazing.
Heartbreaker.
Oh my gosh.
It's Gremlins, not Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's Gremlins that matters.
Right. Dude. So well, let's talk about Dial of Destiny, man. It's getting a lot of mixed reviews, and and I'm not going to be on that bandwagon to bash this movie. Spoilers, by the way, 100% spoilers. We're going full throttle with it because I'm not going to walk on eggshells. But I'll say this, this movie, like I said, I'm not going to bash it. Is it my favorite Indiana Jones adventure? No. But for this, Harrison Ford is 80 years old and he's still doing it.
And
you know what I mean?
Ripped. That
Totally.
scene
And
where
ri-
he's got
and
his shirt, I
ripped.
was blown away. I was like, man, he's in better shape than I am.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And for him, it's crazy. Like, what are you about to say, Chris?
Oh, I was going to say, and additionally, the first, in my mind, other than that moment that you were talking about where the father-son moment of Indiana,
Yep.
other than that, the expository scene about what happened with Mutt is the most like heavy lifting acting he's done in that whole series, and he destroyed that bit. And that was in it. At the end of it, I was like, man, that is the best exposition scene I've ever watched. It was so dramatic.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I got to give him props, man, because like it's rare to have like the same actor play the same character for this long. Sure, there was a young Indiana Jones series. I think Sean Patrick what was his name?
Flannery,
Sean Patrick Flannery.
Yeah, Last Crusade, a young River Phoenix was, played him, but he's played Indiana Jones for this long. And being that y'all got to think about this. 3 years ago, movie theaters were shut down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Everything was shut down. You know what I'm saying? 3 years ago with COVID. So to think about like now at the age that I am at right now, I'm able to see Indiana Jones in his last adventure, and it wasn't terrible. And I had a good time, man. When you talk about this movie, one of the things that really touched my heart in this movie, there's a scene where they go.
Sorry, I got to interrupt. The measure of a movie should never be
It wasn't terrible.
It wasn't terrible.
True that.
Of course, you're gonna get the floor to all of us, but I just I couldn't hold it in. It was like no matter what your critique is, like, should I go see it? It was terrible.
I didn't throw up.
I didn't throw it. Right.
It wasn't.
Could have been worse. Could have been worse.
It wasn't.
I'm gonna say.
It wasn't
It's better than diarrhea.
Right. True that. But man, it's like it's no problem. It's like there's a scene where he's like he wants to be, they go back in time and he wants to be there forever. He wants to be there because he feels like in his present time he has nothing left to contribute, and he wants to be, in the past. He wants to stay there, and I thought that was really something. I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, not my favorite Indiana Jones adventure, but I had a good time, man. I mean, it felt a little long, but I had a good time watching the movie, and that's all that really matters. So, I just want to know your thoughts on it. Let's start with Phil. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. I had fun with it. I also had fun with The Flash, and it's getting a lot of heat, and it's got all its issues. But there's some things that there's some things they talking about, separation and disbelief and all this stuff. But there's certain things that I don't know, no matter how you do it, and if it ends up being not terrible, is it like I it's almost like souring the legacy, because Last Crusade, called The Last Crusade, had what I thought the send-off that I could have gone to my grave with that character. If they wanted to come back and do another Indiana Jones movie, I wish they had done it in the 90s when Harrison was a little bit older, because by the time they got to the Crystal Skull, he was almost the guy he is now. Now, the few things that I did like about this movie that were, I think, a step in the right direction from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Number one, they made Indiana's activities age appropriate. In the first, in Crystal Skull, he's still swinging from stuff. Okay, great. He was 75 years old. No. Okay. He's 80 now, but 75. Oh, 75 is the new 20. No, he was doing stuff because they wanted to try to just be another Indiana Jones movie. But this one, they made them age appropriate, so I appreciated that. When they were driving through the city, which was my best chase scene of them all for me. They had the woman jump out on the car, and he opened the door, so he helped out doing something that. And I figured an 80-year-old man, great physical shape and everything, but like, yeah, if they had him jump out on the car, I would have went, please. But the fact that they had him, do his little thing from in the car, do things sort of like that, they tapped into the fact that he's old, but it wasn't like an insult sort of thing. It wasn't the punchline of everything. They didn't use it as a degrading thing. But like with that though, I man, this is me, okay? As I said before, things like Star Wars, I saw them originally. I saw, the original Indiana Jones. I don't like the fact that, like, you know what they did to Indy in this movie?
What?
They Han Soloed him again. Like the last time we saw him, he was a good dude. And then the next thing you know, he's got like marriage. I understand they gave a great excuse of why he was getting a divorce, but he's like they Luke Skywalkered him. It's like, all of these people that we all looked at that were like great people, the reason why the four of us were excited to walk in to see a sequel with these characters is because we remember the characters in a certain way. We like to see the direction that they take them. It'd be great to, and life happens and things go bad sometimes. But the thing that's hard for me to separate is it's been happening a lot with so many what I call legacy characters. So much so that it's hard to isolate just this Indiana Jones movie without thinking about Luke Skywalker, without thinking about Han Solo. It's hard to separate them. Even that horrible last Terminator movie, like he was like, I'm old now, pull the trigger for me. It's right. Like, it's almost like I don't want to see you if we're not going to see a growth that still salutes the character that we originally, fell in love with. I don't like them always starting out like nothing. You're like, why isn't Indy rich? Indy was getting money from everywhere. Museums would give him money. Every museum piece he got money. He should be rich and famous. And I'd understand his character if he wanted to like hide away from the fame. But Indy should not be living in an apartment like mine. You know what I mean? Indy should have some dough. Indy should have a little bit of something about him. He should have some legacy about his life. And that at least puts him in a better position. It's like they wanted to tell a story about a destitute Indiana Jones. So we got exposition and writing to put him in this place. I'm just personally getting tired of it. Yeah, I'm just kind of getting tired of our guys always. Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman. Batfleck was a perfect Batman, but he was pissed off. He's pissed off. I'm like, I'm on here because you knew me from Nick Arcade back in the 1990s. You would not want to sit up here and be like, well, I'm a 2-packer a day now, and I got problems with my liver because I've been drinking, and my son decided he was gonna start robbing banks and stuff, and I'm on my 4th marriage, and she's out cheating with my best friend. So let's talk about Indy. You were like, bye, Phil.
I'm sorry.
I want to see that.
I'd watch the hell out of that, what you just described to me. I gotta
tell you, I'm interested in this timeline to see where this goes.
I'm not kidding. I'd watch the hell out of that. If someone
but you wouldn't want me on. But you wouldn't be on here to have this fun conversation about what we're talking about, because I would not be that guy. I would be a guy that would bring. I would bring the entire room down. The moment that you said, I went to see Indiana Jones with when a kid with my dad. Yeah, well, my son decided he was gonna like everything. I would be like that SNL character, Debbie Downer. I would be Debbie Downer on this entire podcast right now. And that's the thing, But I mean, I think that's where it gets weird for me. I'm watching legacy character that, if I had to quote you guys before we started rolling, everybody's like, oh, I used to watch you and you da. Well, now those guys are that for me. I used to watch them all the time. I grew up watching those cats. These dudes were part of my childhood. And now that I'm an older individual, I'm looking at my life and I'm still enjoying my life. I'm still finding vitality and joy in things around me. But these guys are being written that their entire existence just went to hell. Something happened and they're all gone. I saw a dark side in my nephew. I'm going to kill him. My son went off with my best friend, so I'm going to leave my wife. Let's say my son didn't decide to join me in archaeology. He went off and he wanted to go to war. So now my wife and I are divorced, and I'm sitting around in my drawers. It's like it's too much. Like it's too. Can we have a legacy character come back? Their life has changed. There's something that's an obstacle they have to face, but they're not just destitute. They're all not ready to be 1 foot in the grave, and not because of age, just because of this negative feeling about the universe that they're all in, man. It's just for me, coming at it as these guys were my childhood. It's like too much for me, man. It's getting to me. It's gonna make me that guy.
That's interesting. Chris, you're about to say something. What are you about to say?
Oh,
Chris?
I mean, I just personally disagree with all of that, but so I can get into it but on a personal level.
I have a little bit of a theory of why he was sort of presented like this, because of the gentleman that directed this film also directed another film that we saw a hero that was just living in the depression, which was Logan, of course, because James Mangold did Logan. And as I was watching this movie, there were a lot of things that I was like, that's very Logan-like. There was a lot of inherent sadness that was like underlaid through this movie. It wasn't just Indy, I don't think. It was the older characters, like Salah has that moment where like he's talking, positively about his grandchildren, about how intelligent they are and how they know this. But at the same time, he's like, oh, they watch too much TV. They're not out living life. And then the bit where he's like, I brought my passport, Indy. I miss the sea.
I just want to go with you.
I'm the next great adventure.
My life is so great. Can you take me away from it, please?
Yeah. And it was like Salah had that sort of underlying sadness. And, Indy, of course, had it because like his delivery of the scene where, you find out that Mutt has died in Vietnam was like, wow, like that was
powerful. That was brilliantly executed. And I agree, it was super powerful, but it was something that was done in order to make this story happen. And it was a good choice. You know what I mean? With respect to writing, it was a well-written scene, acted brilliantly in order to get to the point that they wanted to get to. What I'm saying is, our dudes always got to get to that point.
I'm with you on that. Because when we saw at the end of Crystal Skull, Andy and Marion just got married. He is associate dean of the college. So as you said, like he should be doing well and in life. And, this is what, over almost 15 years after Crystal Skull, I think, give or take, 12, 13, something like that. So man, like, what happened? And I get it. Mutt died. Him and Marion had issues because of it. I appreciate that. There was one bit that felt really, really weird to see in an Indiana Jones movie. And it was the bit where they escape off of Antonio Banderas's boat, which, by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't call this out. What are they doing to my man, Antonio Banderas? I didn't know he was in this movie. And then he was basically a jabroni. They just used and abused Antonio Banderas. I was like, what are they doing? But that aside, they escape the boat, after Antonio just gets shot and killed. And I'm just like, well, great use of him for this film, I guess.
Admiral Akbar them.
Yeah, Admiral Akbar. I couldn't believe it. Of all people, Antonio Banderas, we do this too. But, they're pulling away and, Helena Shaw, she's all happy. And she's like, as I always say, dynamite. And Indy just looks at her crush and he goes, my friend just died or was just murdered. And I was like, well, that is a very sobering moment that I did not expect to have in an Indy. I mean, I get it. Like, it was such a weird because she was all, oh, yeah, whatever. He's dead. No big deal. And then Indy's like, what are you doing? So that was, which at the same time, I like to call back to Temple of Doom, where Indy's friend gets shot and killed right in front of him. And he's just like, oh, well. So I will call that out. Granted, people were trying to kill him. So,
well, I think that's, again, I mean, it's like I noticed that too, and that was definitely a moment that I don't know that that would have been treated that way. Obviously, I live for Spielberg. I
Yeah,
don't know that Spielberg would have treated that moment that way, but that was a, you know, if we're going to argue, where's the logic? Why isn't he rich? Well, then we can't really push back on my friend just died. That's there because of logic.
that's true.
But so yeah, I got to speak to. I will concede. I've been high since I watched it. Not literally. I've been high on crack cocaine since I watched it.
You saw a whole different Indiana Jones.
Exactly, right?
Temple of the Crystal Rock.
Whoa, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I watched it in an alley.
There was a guy
With a
named
guy
Pookie
from
saying-
Indy.
There was a
Yeah,
guy named
yeah.
Pookie going, "You want to see a movie? I got one on
Scotty,
my
I'm gonna
phone.
die.
Yeah.
I got him on a phone right now. Come back here."
But-
Names.
Yeah, I couldn't have been happier. And so this is, and I just saw it yesterday. So this is a bit of a come down for me. So I'm absorbing what you guys are saying. And
I
I'm-
did enjoy it. I do want to say that. It was just,
And
I
I
noticed
had
there was
fun.
a lot of
I-
sadness through the movie.
I started out with a have fun, and I personalized it. Listen. There's really nothing, Chris, that like. There's no argument. There's no defense. Like, I had fun with it, and what I'm sort of doing is I'm separating sort of like my critique of the film, but I injected in also personal me. So there's a critique of the film that goes, there's a critique of the film that goes, I walked away, I had fun. I work in this business, so I understand stories and plot points, the exposition to get from point A to point B, things being done because of purposes to get to where you want to go. So with all of that said, like, there were things I also like. I didn't even mention this. I like the turn that I had for his goddaughter, because his goddaughter in the beginning sort of remind me of, what's the guy's name?
Belloc?
Dick Thornburg. He reminded me of Dick Thornburg in the Die Hard movies. Like, every time he came on the screen, I hated him. Like, every time she came on the screen, I hated her, because you realize, but then as the movie went on, here's what I realized, that she was Balak. Like, Balak was Indy, but Indy was doing it for cultural preservation. Balak was doing it because he just wanted to profit. And you realize that she was Indy, but she was just doing it because she was doing it for money. And then once you begin to get in and see that's it, then you go, oh, and the thing that was kind of interesting was, unlike a Balak that he's trying to fight against, this is somebody that he has a relationship with and some sort of kinship with. So he's not just going to, like, kiss her off like that. He's going to try to somehow come to some resolve and work together, which was a very interesting dynamic. But that's good storytelling, because, and like I said in the beginning, she just reminded me of Dick Thornburg and Die Hard. Every time she came on the screen, I was like, get this woman off the screen. But as it went on and on and on, I realized, ooh, what an interesting paradox for Indy to sort of have to work within. That's a great critique for a fun movie. Personally, I'm tired of my legacy people coming off like deadbeat a-holes.
No,
I'm doing it, Hollywood.
I'm so glad you said that. I felt the exact same way with the character of Helena Shaw until about halfway through the movie. I said, man, she is a very unlikable character. Everything she was, but then like I said, maybe we got like halfway through and it clicked. I was like, she is Belloc in this movie. That is exactly
Belloc.
who she is. Because Belloc has that great speech in Raiders where he looks at Indy. I think it's at the very beginning of the movie where he's like, we're actually the same, you and I. We're two sides of the same coin, only I'm more effective because I don't limit myself like you do. He's like, you could give into essentially he's Darth Vadering him. He's like, give into the dark side, Dr. Jones. So
make some money.
Once that clicked, I appreciated her character way more. I was like, yes, okay, I get it. This is great, because Mads Mikkelsen is such an excellent villain, but he's not in the movie enough interacting with Indy in a way that I felt like, okay, yes, he is definitely Indy's, nemesis. In a way, she felt like it through most of the movie. Like, there was a point in the movie where I thought to myself, if something happens to the kid, is she gonna go and just keep going? Like, I legitimately felt that she might do that at one point. But then by the time
until that halfway point that I think you had, I said, if something happens to her, okay, I'm not going to shed a tear. You know,
Well,
she was for the limited time that Nicholson was in the movie. She did serve that purpose as sort of like a pseudo placeholder villain. And then by the time she began to, it became apparent to me that, oh, wait a minute, I started to like him more. And then he became more prevalent in the movie. And it was like a great little baton handoff, like in a relay. It was really good.
well, it's
It
funny.
was excellent.
The thing is, I think that it's interesting that you guys are such a fan of that, of her being all about money, because that the reason Indiana Jones is living in a like shitty apartment is because that's what our story is about, is like these opposing belief systems, and that she does everything for money and he does everything because his passion and fascination.
Well, I didn't say I was a fan of making money. I don't think Eva said we're a fan of it.
Yeah.
We recognized her. I hated her character because she was like Dick Thornburg in Die Hard. She was just about the money, but then I realized she was really Belloc. That was her.
Yeah,
that was her modus
absolutely.
operandi. I didn't say that I'm a fan of it. I just realized, oh my gosh, that's who she is.
Yeah.
And then once became more prevalent as it went on, there was a switch going on. But it was like she wasn't that much different. It's just like that speech that Mick was saying when Belloc has that conversation with Indy. We're a lot of saying, you and I, Dr. Jones. And I said that internally as I watched the movie. There are a lot of like. Bill Moore.
The character of Mac in Crystal Skull, I was reading about this the other day. Apparently his character was supposed to be sort of a combination of Belloc and Salah, because at one point he's, sort of a nemesis to Indy because he's a double agent working with the Russians and all that. But at the same time, he also helps Indy. So he's like Salah. I never felt like that with that character, but her character, I did instantly, because like with the character of Mac, I feel like you didn't have an opportunity to really care about him one way or the other. He's just kind of there, second fiddle. But her character really was, like you said, she shows up and you're like, I do not like her. She is not a good character. I think she's gonna stab Indy if given half a chance to get some money. She's gonna stab him. But then that switch happened and it was executed well. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge she's incredible. Like, she's such a great performer and just so quick and witty and everything. And she's very likable in pretty much everything else I've seen her in. So that's why I felt shocked. I was like, why do I not like her? Because I like her in pretty much everything I see, until it dawned, oh, I'm not supposed to.
It's like Denzel in Training Day. You like him in everything, and then you see Training Day and go, I don't like this guy right now.
Yeah, it's like
she pulled that off.
Yes.
She pulled that off.
It's funny because that I did immediately see her as she was. Now I knew you were comparing the sort of like dark old days of the Han Solo and the Force Awakens to what they did with Indiana. But if we just go back to A New Hope, Phoebe Waller-Bridge was absolutely the Han Solo of this movie. And so I was reading her in that way. So I'm also in love with her, so that doesn't hurt. But I was always reading her as Han Solo. I was reading her as this gunslinger that is very selfish, and that, like, it's like you say, they're your three sort of forces. The Mads Mikkelsen character is everyone's relationship to history and human existence, and his relationship to it is he's fascinated. He wants to be God. He wants power. Indiana he's just fascinated with it. Period. And then she wants it to better her station or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To be rich, wealthy.
I wanted to know, like, Chris, this has been great back and forth. But Chris, what are your overall thoughts about the movie?
Like I said, I mean, I was on cloud nine. Granted, I'm seeing it with like my best friend, and we're both huge Indiana Jones fans, and I was also drunk. So
always helps.
All these factors are part
of it.
So
the truth comes out about
this.
He's looking at Phoebe Waller-Bridge for 2 hours. He was good.
I got no joke.
He's drunk, he's high, and he's holding his junk. That's what he's doing in the
bingo. Yeah. It's worth noting. It's worth noting that we got drunk at Red Robin. And then
there you go.
Not
an ad, however.
Nice.
And he's gonna watch this movie when it's on streaming, like sober, like 4 months from now. He's gonna go, what the hell is this?
I think I actually went into the Flash.
Nice.
Run, Barry, run. Well, wait a second. Why are they telling that to Indiana?
Well, E-Man, what did you think of the movie?
I thought, like I said, I thought it was a fun time. I'm not. Look. I'll take Indiana Jones over Dominic Toretto lifting a car. Ridiculous.
Don't
Any
question
day of the
family.
week, man. Oh my gosh, man. That movie. Oh, but that kind of leads me to the next question I have. But Mick, I wanted to get you your thoughts, your quick thoughts on the movie overall.
I really enjoyed it. I think looking at the 4 movies, this one slots into number 3. That sounds like, oh, I didn't really like that much. But when you look at the space between 1 and 2, which is Raiders and Last Crusade, they're really close together. So I just, it was a very well executed movie. I don't, as we said, don't quite know how I feel about Sad Indy. One thing that really, really fascinated me, and it was kind of this, it was very subtle, and maybe it wasn't there, and I invented it and was like, this is there, is that Indy did not give a care in the world about the fact that we went to the moon. Did not care, wasn't focused on it. And to me, I really liked that he didn't. And even Mads Mikkelsen's character, who made the rocket that sent us to the moon, did not care. They are not focused on that. From Indy's perspective, it felt, and this isn't anything that I think they explicitly said or did. I think it's just knowing the character of Indy. It seems like he's more focused on, wait, yeah, the moon's great and it's there, but there's nothing there. There are so many things here on Earth we haven't discovered, we haven't figured out, we haven't gotten the answers behind. Why are we going to an empty rock?
He's not interested in the future.
Yeah, he's just
that's
like,
what, yeah.
The
most you're going to discover about the Indy is stuff that happened in the past to discover about who you are now. In a weird sort of way, it kind of reminded me of that little teeny thing that they did in Toy Story.
And Woody's that kind of throwback. But in Indy's case, it's not just a throwback. It's what he believes is how you find out the most about who you are and where we're going to go, is to look backwards. Looking forward doesn't interest him at all.
Yeah. And there's a few times throughout the movie where we see characters do something like that. Like really our introduction to the new version of Mads Mikkelsen, like, in the 60s or whatever, not when we first see him, where he's talking to the guy who brings in the food and he's asking him questions like, oh, did you serve? Oh, how are you enjoying your victory? And then just looks at him and says, you didn't win the war. Hitler lost it. And it's like, dang, that is. So there's a few times where characters are doing that, where they're like, I do not care about the moon. I don't care about the future. Like, there's so much other stuff that we need to focus on that's here and in the past, and we can learn from that and become. So I was fascinated by that thread running through the movie. I thought that was really cool. But just in summation, really, really had a lot of fun with it. Great performance by Harrison Ford. In some cases, he felt like second fiddle, but not in a detrimental way. It was just, I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge, her performance and her presence is so strong that she can't help but shine bright. And, Harrison was very good at sort of, being somber and not trying to get into like like the competition acting of like, no, I'm going to outdo you. Because in Last Crusade, him and Sean Connery are like trying to get there a little bit. Sean Connery gets here and then Harrison's like, oh, I'm gonna get up here. So I appreciated his kind of discipline to stay somber, even though I don't like my sad Indy. I appreciate him being sad Indy and sticking to it. I thought that was good.
And what you about to say, Phil? I'm sorry.
I was about to say, I like the fact that they found a place where they needed each other.
Yes,
because that was when her character was beginning to turn for me, and I was beginning to really embrace her, because I thought she was just going to be just sort of like a know-it-all, smart aleck kind of person. Like, no, she's not smart aleck. She actually is smart. A smart person may, you may have a narcissistic kind of attitude, but if you're really smart, you recognize what you need and who you need. And you're not going to, like that old cliche, cut off your nose to spite your face. She's not going to do that. And so when I saw that in that character, really, that was another one of those things that made me go, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'm starting to like her now. Yeah.
I agree with that. The fact that she was capable, I don't think we've seen, at least a female character in Indiana Jones movie that is 100% capable and on an equal footing with Indy. Like there are moments where Marion had that in Raiders. There are moments when I don't remember her name, but the doctor in Last Crusade has that. And like Kate Blanchett's character in Crystal Skull, there's moments, but there's never anyone who's like, I can go step for step with you as a peer.
Right.
And in
That's
some
true.
cases, I know more than you
yeah.
do. So I really appreciated that. And I thought it was really cool. And the fact that she was never a damsel in distress, love it. Because
that was cool.
Indy was like, I gotta save you. And she's like, save me? What are you talking about? Like, so I love that.
She had so much agency, and that was the moment where, like, I already just like her so much. I like Fleabag a lot. But the moment where I really was like, clearly they're probably trying to test the waters on, can we do James Mangold doing movies with her? The moment where that worked for me, I was like, I'm gonna if they do that, I'm there. Is the motorcycle scene with the plane. That was thrilling.
That was awesome.
That was such a cool scene.
Yeah, that was. I got to mention too, some of my favorite small things in the movie too. There's a point in the movie, I think in the third act, where they cross like a really small drawbridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you say. That if that isn't a Goonies reference,
oh
like
yeah,
the size of it and everything, I don't know what it is. Loved it, and he made two Temple of Doom references. When he's talking about drinking the blood of Kali.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, that gave me chills. That gave me chills.
Like I said, I was completely just over the moon about it. The only criticism I could give it, and I do not. Also, I should have been clear up front. I can't not like Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies, no matter what they're like. I like them, so I should have been clear about that. I can't not like them. But if I was like imagining what people would criticize about it, and I was like, they definitely go a little overboard sometimes with like literally just showing you things that you saw before, like the bugs, which I love the bugs though, and the audience I was with were like, ooh, and
the bugs
it always
too,
works. They were moments where, I'm like, man, they really just pushed a button and showed you something that you'd seen in a past Indiana Jones movie. And no, we even talked about the kid. I thought the kid was amazing, but but we love Short Round, and it's cool to have another Short Round.
I'm not gonna lie. I wanted them to press the button to show me things from the previous movies way more. I wanted everyone coming back for it because we knew this was Harrison's last ride. We knew this was the end. I wanted them all back. Bring me Short Round, bring me Willie, bring me the young Maharaja now who's an adult. Like, bring me it was some random dude who was in the background in Last Crusade, bring him back. Like, that's so I think for me, that's what I wanted. In some ways, I'm glad that they didn't. I think they did enough nostalgia and made a strong movie on their own. But at the same time, I'm like, we couldn't have gotten Oscar Award winner, actor of Short Round, to come in just for a second. Like, he's like, oh, I've got a friend in Greece. Why couldn't it have been Short Round? Please.
I agree with you 100%. 100%.
Because then we would have watched him die.
Well, that's true. That's true. Well, all right. But I still maintain it shouldn't have been Antonio Banderas just getting slaughtered.
That was another thing I had to comment about. I agree with you that was strange, but I do think that was a choice of, I think they knew that they had a trophy character. They knew they had a red shirt, a dead meat character. My narrative podcast is literally about those characters. They knew they had that, and they were trying to give it some weight. And I think they were like, well, if we cast a name, people will feel some surprise when he gets shot. The alternative side of that is it feels kind of weird. It's like, what the hell was that? Why did you give me Antonio Banderas just to kill him? But I think that was the reason they did it, because they didn't want to just show you another random person getting killed. But I'm not saying that it works. It's weird. But I think that was on purpose, but it is weird.
You know what it is? It's me being upset because I look at it, and as a voice actor, those are the roles that I play. I'm the guys that get killed and then just thrown off to the side. And Antonio Banderas is taking my work. You don't need this, man. You're better than this. That's my job. So maybe that's why where I'm like, wait a second, hold on. I'm the guy that's supposed to get killed and thrown to the side, not you.
And not to derail this, but when you guys mentioned Antonio Banderas, I just got to mention, man, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was amazing. I love that movie, man. Yeah. It was so good. It's so underrated. So
okay,
okay,
I want to piggyback on something that I said real quick before we move to the next thing, because
yeah.
it was brought up in this last little exchange here. The kid and stuff that was like uncomfortable. The kid murdered a guy, and it was interesting because like the kid sort of reminded me of, I never thought of him as Short Round. Short Round had personality. Short Round had sort of like a motivation that I got. This guy was presented as, from the very beginning, a thief. When you heard his backstory, he was a thief, and in this, and unlike his goddaughter, who you find out there's more to her than just that. He was just one note all the way through, and then when he ended like murdering a guy, it gave me the creeps. Why? Because I'm old enough to be all your guys' dad, and watching a guy like you know sometimes in like even where they do a thing where they fall back into something and you're a bad guy and then the floor falls and you die. So you know they can, but this guy like goes through a thing and goes, and I'm gonna hand it made me feel creepy as hell.
That's a very good point.
And the fact that he comes back up and he's just like, okay, great. What's on Cartoon Network? Like he was just like unfazed by that.
Yeah, you're
unfazed.
Very, very true, and very, very true, and especially sort of a sin in that it's clearly this movie where I guess they were cherry picking, where they weren't going to be shallow about it and be like, no, we need to treat that like it's real. That you're right. That wasn't treated like it was real. In the movie
what I thought would have been great is, again, in keeping what would have been like, I don't know, just to me, if let's say the guy is chasing him and he ends up like getting out of handcuffs, he can't get through the grate. Kid goes off this way when the guy goes like an underwater avalanche happens.
Yeah.
Now the guy gets his comeuppance and the kid didn't kill him.
That would be more of what happened with Short Round.
Right, exactly. But this guy went, and I'm gonna
like,
make sure you drown.
You're gonna die.
Yeah, you're right.
And
very easy to avoid.
I think it was. I agree with you. And he was also like, wait, what about the original plan? You know, we're supposed to get money. We're not. You know, Short Round wasn't that. Short Round was literally, you could tell he was with Indy because Indy is giving him a better life. Like Indy, right. Yeah, they get involved in crazy stuff, but the idea is he's going to give Indy a better life. So in a lot of ways, I think Teddy and Helena are supposed to be, you know, to pull from E-Man's poster.
And if he did, it would have been, I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I realized what her character was, and I walked away going, I like her. But he wasn't trying to mirror her or sort of like be her Robin to her Batman, you know?
Yeah.
He was an entirely different person. And then once we realized who she was, it felt kind of odd.
He felt really odd after that because it's
odd
like
to be with her, because that I don't think that would be in her character to do. If you know,
agreed.
But again, wait, I take it back. Maybe she would have, but she's a grown up. So you know what I mean? To have to put that in the face of a kid was just, again, it was unsettling. That's all. It
was the Negaverse Short Round. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was the dark Short Round.
The multiverse Short Round.
Yes. In the multiverse, he is the evil Short Round.
Very,
hey,
very
can
true.
I put this out here? The opening of the movie, swing. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my.
It
now
was
you're
excellent.
talking about being high. I was giddy. I was touching myself. It was so. Oh,
I could have watched a whole movie of just that.
Yeah.
Put me in the 40s with man, and the de-aging on Harrison was awesome.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
It was so good.
Bill, we can add that we just now got a Who Framed Roger Rabbit impersonation when you were describing how you felt. You went into Roger Rabbit.
Now there's some real concerns for me as far as the future of movies is concerned. You know, for example, this movie only made globally like 120 at the box office. You know, The Flash had, you know, a box office blunder, and you know, this has been a really it's been an okay summer. So I just want to know, what are your thoughts on the future of movies in Hollywood? You know, of course, there's a writer strike going on. I just want to know your thoughts on all of that. Start off with Chris.
Well, I definitely think there's the difference of like Hollywood and movies is a little bit separate from the future of theaters. Because that's the big thing we're wondering about. I mean, clearly people are glued to their TVs watching 20 hours of content without, getting up. Storytelling in the cinematic way isn't going anywhere, obviously. But as far as theaters go, I don't know exactly where we're headed. I know we won't ever lose them. They're too valuable. Nothing with real value like that ever goes away. But at the same time, it's like there's these couple of movies that are like scary looking, but then there's like, Top Gun and stuff like that, to where it just depends on like where, like if we had this conversation a month after Top Gun came out, you probably wouldn't even worried about that,
Right.
But I don't think it's going anywhere.
Okay. Or Phil, you're in Los Angeles right now, so what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, one of the big things dealing that's happening is the idea of streaming, and we're watching right now that everybody was out of the gate as a producer. Everybody was in the content, but I don't think they kind of like plotted out what the landscape would look like if you oversaturated it with too much.
So what I'm saying is, part of the thing that's up in the talks with the current strike is this idea of streaming, and when it first happened, and it sort of really snowballed during pandemic. I don't think anybody anticipated what the landscape would look like, and then every channel. Everybody wanted to put on a streaming service, and it's just give me content. And now what I believe people are beginning to realize is there's an oversaturation of mediocrity. And look, say what you want about like how you feel about a character. We've had like what I think is a really cool conversation and even debate and disagreement about like what we feel about characters, our personal feelings versus intellectual, how much we love something, how much we're mad about because we grew up with it. But at the same time, good content is good content. And people will go to the theater and they'll dish out money to watch Tom Cruise come back from, wherever he was, how many years ago with Top Gun, because if you make a good movie, people will go and see it. People were saying, are we oversaturated in the multiverse? People were saying, yeah, but then Spider-Man came out, boom, blew everything out of the way. Are we, is it too much superhero fatigue? And then Guardians of the Galaxy came out, boom. And I think that the theaters and even streaming services have to get back to the point of it's all about money, but more and more, I'm seeing less and less being put into the integrity of good storytelling. When you get too much mediocrity, and now you've got more things to watch. There used to be a time when I used to flip through Netflix. Remember when Netflix was new and you flip around and you were talking every day about, I found this new thing and it was great. And I found this thing, it's great. Now multiply that by, Paramount, Peacock, and Hulu, and everybody just wants to get more programming on, but they're not really putting the same level of I don't want to say passion or care, but the same level of skill into the stories that are being told. And now people since we have choices, we're beginning to pick and choose. And I think that Hollywood sort of has to get back to going back to putting more emphasis on content, on the quality of the storytelling. Because if not, that's how you can take a show. That's how you can take a show like, I'm going to use an example. You can take a show like Mandalorian. Season 1 and 2 was terrific. Then season 3, more money talk got involved. And season 3 is the one that's sort of like debatable amongst people when you compare it to 1 and 2. The level of storytelling, the thing, we need to get more episodes. So there were episodes that people say felt like fillers. These are things that have to do with the level of care that you're putting into the development and the story you tell. Tell me a good story. I will be right there watching a movie about something that isn't in my wheelhouse of things that I like. And I've gone through that. I've gone to see movies that like, I never watch X genre, and I'll go and watch a movie and go, wow, that was really good because you told a great story. And I think that somewhere the scale has to kind of tip the other way. It's always been about money. Let's not kid ourselves. But I think that all of a sudden it became, but can we just put something out there? And we've watered down the integrity of storytelling and development. And I think that if we sort of get back they're having a greater commitment to telling great stories, putting more into the ideas that are being developed, then we could get to an even plane. If we don't, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think theaters are going to go away, but I'm not going to, waste money going to see something that really feels like it's just going to be crap. And you can't blame it on oversaturation of anything, because like I said, we still go see multiverse movies because Spider-Man just killed. And we go see superhero movies because Guardians killed. But you throw out some of these other things, people are getting smart now. People are getting
I agree with that
nailed
100%.
I would say you really, really just nailed it to the wall in that you said you're not going to waste your time going to see something that's not good. And that is the reason there's this phenomenon of everything's got to be existing IP, because it's this false sense of security that keeps working, even though the idea that like, well, I'm not going to go see this thing I haven't heard of because I can't waste my time, versus like, I know what this thing is or that thing is, so I'm going to go see it. But that doesn't work. I mean, there's been so many horrible, obviously. But I think that's why that phenomenon happens, because people are looking for some reason to believe that they can bet on this movie.
Well, when last year started out, and I felt like, oh my gosh, I literally thought great filmmaking is back, because I was blown away with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
Not a pre-existing IP. What was that movie with Nick Cage where he's playing himself? I love that.
Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Unbearable Weight of Excellent.
Excellent
Right,
movie.
and then I went to see a small indie film called Duel, where Duel, Duel, it stars what's the woman who's in she plays Gamora's sister, and she's also in
Karen Gillian.
Yeah,
Karen Gillian.
She plays that
Excellent.
where find it, go see it. And then it was like a lot of small movies came out, and a couple of, but none of them were pre-existing IP. When 2022 started out, I was like, boom, boom, boom. My son is a filmmaker, and we just stopped and went, yo, I think we're back.
Nice. Yeah.
And it was a lot of stuff that wasn't pre-existing IP, and it was blowing my mind.
My people didn't agree with me largely, but my favorite movie last year was Nope.
Oh,
that was original IP.
Oh man,
that was my favorite movie.
Yeah. Also, go see. Well, oh my gosh, the one I want to remember is Audrey Plaza in something criminal.
It Goes West. No,
it's
that was a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, it was on Netflix. Criminal. Emily the Criminal.
Emily the Criminal.
Yeah, that was good.
She goes great in it.
An original IP that never seen it before, wasn't a prison. So that's how 2022 started for me. And then I went to see a movie that just tripped us all out. Most people haven't heard of it, but it's called Fall, and it stars the woman that was Mary Marvel in the Shazam movies. Again, indie film, but like
right.
I was seeing all of the stuff. I'm going. Some of it was big budget, like Everything Everywhere, and then some of it was small stuff like Emily the Criminal. And I was like, I've never heard of these things, but people are going out there and making original stuff, and they're making great stuff. And I thought, we're back. But something happened again.
I'll tell you something to look out for. So I'm going to plug this, like the Benson Moorhead. They made like Synchronic, and they just made something in the dirt. They always turn out incredible stuff. And I mean, now they made Moon Knight, but when they do their like indie stuff,
really good. I thought.
Yeah. I'll check it out.
So I want to make sure I address the different points. So first and foremost, as far as the issues that we're dealing with right now with like the writer strike and things like that, which pay the writers, pay them. Let's get it.
That's how you get the good
stories.
Hard.
We don't need more seasons of housewives who are desperate, or dynasties of ducks, and we don't need that. We need stories. So pay these people. So first and foremost, I want to put that out there. The voice acting industry is one that is so far getting hit, and in some cases decimated because of AI. Because why pay an actor to do this performance when you can just type it in and have a computer spit it out and give you the performance that you want and you need? So that's scary, to me as a voice actor, because how can I mean, already it's challenging enough to be a voice actor, and much less a working voice actor, and then much less a working voice actor who can support yourself off of voice acting. Like it's levels of challenge there. But so that's really scary. As far as I think Phil nailed it. We are so satisfied with just churning out mediocre things and slapping giant budgets on them and saying, hey, this movie's going to make $1 billion because we had a 300 million budget. Definitely doesn't work that way. I like to look to horror as sort of the best way to see how things have evolved in mainstream. Because if you look at the Blumhouse model, very, very low budgets. They have, I think, Halloween, the first Halloween that they did with Jamie Lee Curtis, where she first came back, that Blumhouse did, I want to say that entire movie had a budget of something like 1.5 million or 2 million. It was insanely low. It made $70 million its first weekend because it was good. Like, it was a good script. It was scary. It was a known property, yes, but it was one that people thought was kind of dead because, you know, the last we had seen was Rob Zombie's outings. And before that, you know, Busta Rhymes was just doing his best Jim Kelly to Michael Myers and taking him out. So that franchise, that property was damaged in a lot of eyes. And then Jason Blum said, I don't think so. Hold on. Let me get the right guys on this and we're going to make it work. You look at things like Hereditary, you look at like Midsummer, you look at, you know, Robert Eggers and Ari Aster, these incredibly creative writers and directors that work with smaller budgets, making amazing, like, genre bending horror movies. Jordan Peele, another example with
Ty West.
Yeah, Ty West. Like, these guys are not having these humongous bloated budgets to make mediocre films. They're making great movies. So I think that's the key, is like, you have to look at horror, and then mainstream filmmaking finally, like, it clicks. They're like, oh, wait a second. We don't need to spend as much if we focus on making it a better property, making the script better, getting the right actor, getting the right director, whatever it is. So I think that's a big key. The downside to it, of course, is if it does too well. I point to Stranger Things as the example for that. When Stranger Things hit, you know, on Netflix, it was like the first humongous hit for Netflix. Nobody knew anything about it. It was just kind of word of mouth. People say, hey, man, have you checked out the show? It's just like we're in the 80s again. It's incredible. Like, my grandmother had that exact pitcher that we would pour tea out of. Everything, like, just stuff like that was literally what somebody sold the show to me on. Not like, oh, it's this crazy sci-fi, there's D&D, there's horror. No, it was literally, bro, it looks like my grandmother's house. It is so accurate to the 80s. And I was like, well, I got to check that out. So that was my introduction to Stranger Things. Squid Game is another example where, kind of word of mouth, nobody really knew anything about it. It's from Korea, just blows up, does huge. So it's cool when we get these properties and these, you know, films and these TV shows that have love and have care and it's done well. But then when they do too well, it's all of a sudden, we got to throw more money on it. And it's almost an unwinnable battle, you know, and that's what Indiana Jones is facing right now. It doesn't matter how good the movie is or how good it isn't. The budget for this movie is so gigantic. It would have to be one of the best movies ever to even turn a profit. I mean, we saw the same thing with The Flash. Doesn't matter how good it is or how good it isn't. The budget is so insane, and it was delayed, and it went against like so much competition that it's almost an unwinnable. Again, if it's good, not good, it's nearly an unwinnable battle. So I think that's the thing, is like, I don't think movie theaters are going to go away. Somebody's always going to want that. Even if we see, like, you know, there's maybe 200 theaters. Yeah, same. Yeah, there's 200 theaters left in the country or something. You know, things like Alamo Drafthouse have shown us you can make events out of things. You can show, you know, you can show John Carpenter's The Thing, bring in, you know, Kurt Russell to do like a Q&A, and they will pack that house every single time they do that showing. Kevin Smith, you know, writer director, bought a movie theater in New Jersey, and he does that. He will do Q&As after movies, and he jokes, he goes, yeah, so I do a Q&A after movies that I didn't make. He packs the house every single time he does that. Now, he said, on the other hand, normally when he's not doing a Q&A and it's just a, you know, showing of the film, not really anybody there, because I think that is a hangover from the pandemic, is people have learned, I can wait a couple months. It's on streaming. I don't got to pay $50 for tickets, another $50 for popcorn and drinks. And God forbid if you have children and you're taking them, much less multiple children. And hey, I need you to sit here for 2.5 hours to watch this movie and not move and not run around and not make noise. Parents don't have to worry about it with streaming. So it's a shift. I don't think it'll go away. I think people who love movies, they're always going to go to the movies to see it. It is going to shift. And I think what we're going to see is Hollywood is going to realize maybe we don't need as much bloat. Maybe we can cut down on some of the bloat. And I think the future is going to be sort of like what we saw in the height of the pandemic, where it goes to theaters, but you can also pay, $20, $30, whatever it is, to get it on streaming and watch it. So there'll be the two options. I think that's ultimately where we're going to end up finding ourselves, is that kind of split revenue thing where they realize, like, wait a second, instead of just losing money, why don't we make it so that people can still pay money to watch the movie at home, and the people who want to go to the theater can still go, but the people who don't, for whatever reason, don't have to. So I think that's ultimately where we're going to land. When it's all
like, you said, like Alamo Drafthouse. I mean, that's culture, that's not just about the event. Like, that's the culture of going to the movies. And that model is growing. Like, I can't wait. I'm going to LA in August, and there's a place called Vidiots that opened that I found on Instagram or whatever. That's all they do is like cool old screenings. It's like an event.
You gotta hit up the Beverly Center, Quentin Tarantino's theater.
Oh yeah, I forgot about his theater.
Let me tell you what my son and I just went to see. He grew up he's a child of the 80s, and he's a child of the 90s. He was born late 80s, but he grew up in the 90s. And we just went to see last month, back on the big screen, a Goofy movie.
Oh,
nice!
Oh,
nice.
What an incredible.
Now
movie.
here's the thing that's crazy. Like, we looked around in the theater, and I think maybe it was sold out. I think maybe we counted maybe 13, 15 children. Everybody else in there was your age and my age. It was like
nice.
Grown-ups that were little kids and the parents that watched it with them back in the day. We went to see the original Crispy Superman. And every now and then a director will show up and he'll do just like you were talking about. Those are events. But even when it's not that, man, you know what I long for? The last time I had this event experience was maybe The Force Awakens, when you go to a movie and there's the clapping, there's the cheering, it's the fans that are there. You stand out in line. I think it's Force Awakens, and I got to back up a little bit. Maybe it was the Revenge of the Sith, but there were movie events that you would go to, and you stand in line all night and you wait to go in, and you're there with like-minded theater enthusiasts and also fans of the genre of whatever you want to go see. And it was just an event. And now, again, like I was just at Disney, and I was talking to some people that work there, and they were saying that, like, they were trying to promote Elements, the new movie that's in the theater right now. And they're saying, like, people have gone to see the last few movies in a row, and they didn't do well. They weren't happy with them. So now that you have Disney Plus, a lot of people are choosing, well, I've already wasted money taking the family, packing them up, making them sit still for 90 minutes, $50, $60, $100 in tickets and concessions. Well, you know what? The last 3 movies we went to see, we didn't care for. I'll just wait till it comes out on Disney Plus. Yeah. It's really interesting.
That I'm really happy that you said that with, like, people, they re-released the Goofy movie, they put it in theaters, and it was a full house, and people had a good time. And that's why just to go off on the Disney thing, that's why I'm not really a big fan of these live action remakes, because it's almost like them saying, like, what was the original stuff isn't timeless. But it is timeless. It's timeless stuff that can be re-released, and people will go and see it.
They used to do that. Remember, everything used to go in the vault, and it made it
right.
There it is.
It is coming out of the vault.
Special before things got saturated. And I'm even talking about what, like, probably my second biggest fandom is the Star Wars universe. It felt special, even when you wanted more. you would get like a trickle of something. But back with Disney, you know, a movie would come out, it would be released. You could buy it for a limited time. It would be a new DVD, a new Blu-ray, a 4K version of it, and it would have a little bit extra bonuses on it, and then it would go back into the vault, and it felt special.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna say one thing with that though is I agree, but everything is so dependent on marketing and like high level marketing, because the truth is I never miss a retro screening of anything, like if it's available. And like they've released classic Disney movies in theaters that there wasn't a marketing push, people didn't go see it. Every summer they do the Ghibli Fest at Regal. Like it's just, it needs this like buzz, it needs hype, the way that it's like, am I going to see Oppenheimer or Barbie? That, do you know how much money I'm sure has gone into making people laugh about Barbie versus Oppenheimer? Like everything requires so much marketing to get people to show up now. So it's not as simple as put it back in theaters, people will go see it. They will, but they have to create hype, and that becomes its own budget.
Right.
It's as expensive as making a new movie.
I don't know. I because, you know, there is hype, but I would point to Morbius that had a ton of hype, and it was a big joke, and it was all a buzz, so much so that these, you know, that Sony said, oh, people want to go see this movie, put it back in theaters.
And laugh at
no one went to see it.
They didn't realize they were being laughed at.
Yeah, they didn't realize. They were like, the kids on the TikTok are all about the Morbius movie. We got, it's morbid time, kids. And like even Jared Leto bought into the joke, and he's got the script too. It's more, you know, and no one went to see it. But at the same token, there's a theater in Charlotte, and I can't remember it right now off the top of my head. I'd have to ask my wife.
Independent Picture House?
No, it's a larger theater, and it might be Airsley, but it's every Halloween or every October, the entire month of October, they run on Friday and Saturday, like double and triple features of just different horror movies. And it's everything. It's Ghostbusters. It's, you know, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's everything. And my wife and I went and saw The Crow there. Now, obviously, Crow came out in 1993, which I saw that movie when it hit VHS. But in 1993, I was not at an age in which I was able to go see The Crow in theaters. I was a bit too young to see it in theaters because my parents would have gotten dirty looks. Otherwise, they would have taken me. But that's not the point. But seeing The Crow in theaters, which is one of my favorite movies, was spectacular. And people were clapping, and they're like saying the lines along with it. And it was this beautiful experience. And I think the tickets were $5. I could have gone over to my shelf, grabbed it off, put it in, done. But the experience of the theater made it magic. And I looked at it and I go, man, it made me sad that Brandon Lee passed away doing that movie, because when you watching it on the big screen, I was like, oh yeah, he was going to be a mega star, like, because he was just captivating. And I've seen that movie a billion times, and I've always thought that, but seeing it on the big screen, I was like, yeah, he was going to be the man, and there was no getting around it.
I may have been at the same screening as you, by the way, because I went to that right. I went to that on Halloween.
Yeah, it's so good.
I snuck in
Chipotle. You opened up in Pandora's box, though, E-Man. I got to tell you, talking about the Disney remakes, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yes, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole
very true. Yeah,
another.
Podcast. And all about it's funny. I was kind of gathering up all the information, and you guys were talking about. I know Mick said something about Hereditary and Midsommar, and then like, you know. We mentioned everything everywhere all at once, and I think Midsommar and Everything Everywhere All at Once was under the same studio of A24, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think I gotta commend that studio, man, because they're willing to take risk and greenlight things that aren't traditional. You know what I'm saying? And that aren't popular, and I really like what they've been putting out. I really have, especially like I said, Everything Everywhere All at Once. You know, and I didn't even get a chance to see Marcel with the shoes, but things like that, you know, things like that. Like I think you're like collectively, I think you guys are right. They need, you know, it doesn't take a huge budget to make something great. You know, Everything Everywhere All at Once had a budget of what, like less than
but even lower than that movie was Megan. Remember, or Mathregan, as I like to call it, Mathregan.
Yeah, I recently just saw that. You know, yeah. So
what about Pearl? What about X? These movies are
Pearl
like,
and X getting shot at the same time, and no one knew
come
it.
on.
I know.
Right.
Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah.
I didn't see
but,
Pearl. Pearl was like in and out the theaters like super fast.
Yeah, but it made its money.
Yep.
It's made
Yeah.
its money.
Yeah.
So is there any way we can get to what I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about this before time runs out, and that is the time travel, because that's what everybody's calling the controversial third act. What did you guys think about that?
After watching Crystal Skull again, I don't think that they could have done anything that was going to be too out of space for me, because I have watched Crystal Skull several times now, and I still don't feel like I understand what happened at the end of the movie. Like it's just like I sort of get it, but it's not aliens. They're very specific that it wasn't aliens. They're
right. It's
interdimensional beings.
Something, yeah.
Which for whatever reason that makes it way too out there. So the time travel thing, honestly, I think it fits more with Indy. The interdimensional beings thing from Crystal Skull feels the most out of place, because everything else is based off of some sort of religion, where time travel obviously isn't religion, but it makes sense. When you would introduce a man of science with Matt Mikkelsen's character, it makes sense. Again, way more than Crystal Skull, at least for me.
Yeah.
As a fan of Back to the Future, and we all love Back to the Future, what did you think about the time travel element, Chris?
I mean, it's a pretty easy answer for me. Of course, it worked.
Drunk and high, and he loved it.
I was drunk and high, and as much as it can work on someone, that's how much it worked on me. When they were writing that, and they were just like imagining the person that would hit, and they would just lose their shit, I was that person they were thinking of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I liked it because it wasn't, they went back in time, but it wasn't traditional time travel.
Yeah.
Like the dial did not make time happen. The dial just led you to a fissure that was going to be happening anyway. You know what I mean? And it just gave you the coordinates to get to it, to go through it. So they kind of made it seem like this was a natural phenomenon that happened. It would just be impossible to find without this particular dial. So I like that little twist on it. And going back, I like the fact that, and I heard another podcast, I think it was New Rock Stars, that on YouTube that pointed this out. What was really great about that, and Indy wanting to stay, was it was consistent to his character throughout the films. Because if you think about it, Indy, like, remember he had the bazooka and was going to blow up the ark, but he couldn't. Why? Because he's like so connected to the past and things of history. When with the Grail, his father had this all the time. He called him Junior, but when he called him Indiana, that was the thing that made him let go of the chalice. He was so attached to it, he didn't want to let go of these historical things. And in this thing, now that he's actually there, it made perfect sense that he wouldn't want to leave, because he always seems to have to be like brought back, talked out of something. Marion being going to be shot was the reason why he didn't do the thing. Dad calling him back, was it? And this particular thing was him being punched and knocked out. Like something has to snap him out of it. He's so attached to it. It made sense to me. I enjoyed that idea. And
Agreed.
And like we've been talking, at least two of us anyway, about not liking sad Indy Eeyore. That's what I'm calling it. All right.
I lost my tail.
But when we got back at the end there, and Marion had come back, I was like, okay, well, at least he's not going to go, well, I'll sit here in my drawers again. It was like I was happy to see that, the hat, the whole 9 yards. So I was cool with it.
The line that he says to Helena when they're, in the past and everything, is he's looking at, he's like, look, this is history. He goes, this has been my entire life, is what he was able to now see and put eyes on and watch develop and change. He'd literally been studying and thinking about and pining over his entire life. And there he is standing in it. Like he's a kid in a candy store. Because he's like, what else is out there for me in the future? I have less.
You know what it reminded me of? I felt that this is what he must have felt like it was almost like when the what do you call it? Jurassic Park, when they see the real dinosaurs, it's what they were doing all their life.
Their whole life.
And now they're actually witnessing them for real.
Yeah.
It was that same sort of feeling.
And
wow, I've been digging around in this and I'm actually here for real.
Yeah, I loved that because I really thought they were going to leave him there. And I loved that at the end of the day, the end game for Indiana Jones was always to resolve things with Marion. That was the actual goal. And I loved that when he was headed towards a more not superficial, but his more material goal, which is he's obsessed, he's passionate about history, versus the goal he needs to get to, which is Marion. I love that just like when Han Solo comes over and saves Luke, our Han Solo is Helena. And I love it. That felt so good that he's like, I need to do this. So do I. That's so cool.
There's a thread throughout all the movies that they touched on, and I believe in Raiders, he's in class and he's teaching, and he says this line that archaeology is not about being in the field; it's in the library. You got to get in the library and read books. But in, I believe, Crystal Skull, he says archaeology is not being in the library. You need to get in the field. Blah blah blah. And there's no line that indicates it. But this was the thing: is like, get there, go to where you need to be.
Archaeology isn't about reading or it's being there.
Yeah, it's being there and observing it and watching it and living it. That is what it, so again, there wasn't that line that he had, but I appreciated that was the evolution of the character for Indy, where he goes from, you need to be in the library, to, no, you need to be in the field, to I'm here. So it was beautiful. I
thought was going to happen, and I'm glad but I just want to know if anybody else, I'm not saying I wish it would have happened. I thought as I watched the movie, this was going to happen. I thought because he gave that heartfelt story about what he would have said to Mutt. Did you think that he was going to walk through the door?
I did. I thought Mutt was going to walk through the door. Yeah, I thought
we were going to find out that somewhere Helen did something and Mutt walked through the door. And I was like, not that I wanted it, but I kept thinking, are they going to do that?
That would have been cool.
I thought they were going to do that. And the other thing that I thought before we figured out how the dial actually worked, when he gets shot, I'm like, they're going to go back and make it so that he doesn't get shot or move something or change something so it saves his life or whatever. That's what I thought they were going to do. I'm glad they didn't do that, because I was like, that's the logical where we're going. That's where we're headed. And they didn't do that. So I really appreciate they went in a different direction.
One more wackadoo theory. So since they went back in time and the plane was there and they already did things that kind of, when they came back, not only did I think Mutt was going to walk through the door, it was George Clooney.
And Indy goes, who the hell are you?
Nice. But real quick, guys, how can folks reach you? Start off with Chris.
I guess if deadmeatpete.com is my podcast, or deadmeatpete Instagram, or my Instagram, which is chris.c.gervais.
Nice. And what about you, Mick?
Well, I first got to say thanks to Phil, because you can find me everywhere at Mick Arcade, because that's who I am, baby. Baby. I'm on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. It's that Mick Arcade, which is, whatever. But I'm doing voice acting for just about anything and everything. Like, I'm a part of the regular cast of Renegade Shadow, which is kind of an ongoing werewolf series. I do a ton of work for Doorway to Nightmare, which is a horror series that I do probably a billion psychopaths and killers and people who always meet some sort of untimely end, because apparently I got that kind of voice, I guess. But yeah, I'm always doing something out there on the internet, and I'm Mick Arcade.
All right, cool.
I reclaimed the video zone. I use it myself now.
There you go. For me, it's my name, Fillmore, Philmore. The number 4 and the letter U. So my tribute to Prince. Fillmore for you, nice. And that's both Instagram and on Twitter. Right now, I'm one of those guys with a sign. We'll work for food, because I'm part of the writer's strike. But you can catch the last thing I did, which is season 4 of Kevin Hart's Celebrity Game Face. Now airing fresh episodes for you on the E Entertainment, Hulu, Paramount Plus, all the things you paid for.
Nice. Thanks,
Pay the
guys.
writers.
Pay the
Pay the
writers.
writers.
Pay
Pay
them.
the writers.
Come
Thank you,
on.
guys.